Hey guys, how you doing? Brian, Mr. Smith. It's my kitchen, as always. So, I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a great Valentine's Day. I know I did for the most part. I got some really cool stuff, which I'll be showing off. Uh, yeah, I am probably, I don't know if I'm going to do, I don't know what I'm doing this week. So last week I had said that if I probably wouldn't be doing any videos this week other than maybe this one, because I had dates mixed up in my head and thought Abby's surgery was this week, but it's not. It's next week. It's the 25th. And so I didn't really put a game plan together, but we may do some stuff. I do have friends coming over tomorrow, and I'm going to make up some, they're called taco cinnamon rolls, and they're basically, they look like a cinnamon roll, but they've got taco filling in them. And you put salsa and stuff on the side. They're kind of like a tailgating dish, and we may tape that and see how that rolls out. And then I'm also doing some hot barbecue flavored wings. That it's Betty White's recipe. It was her favorite wings. If you don't happen to know who Betty White is, that's shame on you, first of all. But she was probably one of the funniest, kindest, gentle actresses you ever met, who just passed away. And I saw the recipe and thought, oh, these A's sound amazing. B, they're Betty White's. So I'm going to try and make some of those also. Those do take a little prep time. Right now I'm just chilling to the Eagles before I have to go to work. Got the dishes done, got Sarah off to school, Abby's on her way to school now. And I just wanted to take a minute to say, hey, by the way, if you're new to my channel, welcome. The quick synopsis is we're just documenting my life and things I like to do, family, trying to push some values, some social equality, things like that. Well, just equality in general, not even so much social. You know, and occasionally I do get a little touchy with some subjects. You may not always agree with me, but I'm not sorry. I mean, they're my opinions. It's how I feel. But at the same time, you know, give me your opinions. If you're returning to my channel, thank you. That means I'm doing something right. You're getting something out of this. Subscribe button is down below. You're always welcomed into our neighborhood. Yeah, and we're growing every week. It seems like I get a new subscriber or two, which is fantastic. You know, the more people we can have in our community, you know, the better. You know, we practice being a good neighbor and taking care of each other. And, you know, everything I do on my channel, I hope teaches you something, gives you an idea how to do something, and, you know, things like that. I mean, as far as today goes and things to talk about, I don't really have a whole lot. I mean, if you've been following any kind of the news, you know that the whole Russia-Ukraine thing going on is kind of been topic of the moment, you know. And, yeah, but and I'm holding my breath on this, but Russia seems to be moving away from the Ukrainian border. And it looks like things are starting to calm down a little bit over there. You know, and of course the importance of that is a couple-fold. Russia being a communist country, you know, their political it's democratic on paper, but they were their country was communism for you know, ever since the beginning of Russia. And then in the mid-late 80s, they ended communism, went with the democracy, and now I don't know really what you would call it. Maybe a oligarchy, which is where the rich and the powerful pretty much run the country, and they've had the same president now for decades. You know, but if they were to have invaded Ukraine, it would have given them open option to the entire European border, which could have been bad if they ever decided to go to war with Europe. It could potentially create another World War III. This whole Ukraine thing could have potentially started a World War III. But like I said, looks like it's calming down now, and that's pretty cool. Oh, favorite Eagles song ever, Seven Bridges Road. It's one of my favorite songs ever, hands down. Harmonies in it's amazing. Um, Another thing that I'm not happy to see been brought back up in the news, but I am kind of happy it's back in the news. And because this should never happen at all. But I have learned in our society, if it's not in the media or on social media, we have a tendency to forget about it and things just keep happening. And it's always negative things. You never, good things happen too, but if we're going to change the world, so to speak, and the minds of billions, we got to keep talking about things. And it was another shooting, another no-knock warrant, Minnesota, that took the life of a young man. I mean, he was black, but he was a young man. Period. And they busted down his door. It's 2-3 o'clock in the morning. They break down his door and start hollering, causing mass confusion. This young man, who's asleep on his couch, not 20 feet from the door, with his blanket over top of him, wakes up in a panic. First thing he does is grab his pistol. And within less than 10 seconds of them breaking down the door, an officer fired 8 rounds into this young man, killing him. He did grab his gun, but he had that right. He had no idea what was going on. He was woke up from a dead sleep with people bum rushing his apartment. And here's the kicker. The warrant wasn't even for him. Wrong guy. So he died for no reason. And you can say, well, he did have a gun in his hand. Natural reaction was to shoot. Well, all he did was grab his gun. He didn't even have time to react and see what was going on. On that note, and they're police officers. There was 1,000,001 things that they could do. I wish I could show you the video for it, but I don't have it. But it's out there on the web. His head is covered by the blanket. He can't even see who's shooting him. That could have just been as easily them jumping on top of him and taking the gun from him. Bam, no damage done other than maybe some bruises. He'd still be alive at any rate, I guess would be my point. But, like I said, that's a shame. But, I'm glad to see something like that back in the news so we can put it back in top of mind. I've not forgotten. But I know there are so many people out there that if it isn't in their news feed of some sort, whether it's on TV, social media, whatever, they have a tendency to forget. And on my channel, we're not going to forget. We're not going to forget about the inequalities of life. And I'm not saying all things should be fair and equal. Life isn't fair and equal. But that doesn't mean we can't do our part to help try to keep it that way. As we're finding out with all the financial issues people are starting to have and the companies are starting to have with getting products out, or not starting to, have been having, financial equality across the board, we're not set up for as a country. Too much money has almost become a bad thing between the pandemic and people actually being close to equal. It has been kind of a hardship on companies, but we can take this as a learning lesson, right? So now we know if we're going to have a level playing field for a majority of us. Now, you're always going to have that minority 1%. You're going to have that as long as you have major corporations. That's just fact of life. And the billionaires, I've come to the conclusion, will always be fewer than the majority, but they will always be able to play their game, and control some things. But that doesn't mean we can't work together, the rest of us, to do well by others. As I've also come to the conclusion, the biggest problem with our government is the old people that run it. And now I'm not saying that all the younger people that are in our government are any better, because there's some doozies out there that are my age and just a hair older. And some that are a hair younger that I think are too extreme on some of their stuff. But you need that. But I got to thinking, we kind of have Here's why Congress and Senate haven't been doing so well. Hold on for me 1 second, please. Sorry about that. I had to let Sam out the door. She was getting ready to create some mischief. But anyhow, so here's what I think one of the problems is with our government. I mean, other than old people. And I don't mean that old people are horrible. They just aren't as acceptable to change. But okay, so here's just one example. In a presidential election, you have a Democrat, you have a Republican, but there's inevitably a third party. You know, whether it's an independent, well, they would all be independent, but with a third idea. All right, and ultimately what happens is that independent never gets elected, and some people would say all they do is just take votes away from the other two. But in a way, it's necessary. We need that third opinion. Well, then you get down to the Senate and the Congress, and even though they say Democrat on one side, Republican on one side, and then you've kind of got a couple independents in the middle, you know, literally 2 or 3 independents in the middle. Well, you put that in the Senate and the Congress, you know, and you got about 500 and change in total people, and, you know, so a couple 2, 3 sprinkled in isn't, I mean, it's important, but it doesn't greatly affect anything. And most of our independents lead Democratic, most of them, not all of them. But here's where the problem lies in getting anything done. In my opinion, at least this is one of the bigger ones. We don't just have those 3 entities. Each entity is broken down into something else. You know, so you've got your Republican Party, that's one entity. But in that entity, you have an extreme right, you have a moderate, you've got everything in between. All right, so now you've got essentially two parties in one. All right, and then the Democrats are the same way. You've got your far left, you've got your moderate, right, which is pretty much me. And then you've got your independent. So now you've got 5 different points of view in one pot. The problem with that is trying to get all 5 sides, essentially, to agree on one thing. I think that is where we're failing in our government, essentially. Yeah, I know, I could be completely wrong, but I don't think I am. I think that is one of the biggest hangups. Our Congress and Senate have done less. I mean, and they do a fair amount of little things, you know, things they know they can get accomplished and agree on. But it's like the big issues, the touchy issues, they struggle with. And I think that's part of the reason why. I think that's a good majority of the reason why. I think what it comes down to is they, you know, because nobody can agree in the way our system's set up, that you have to have a 60-vote majority. It hinders it. You know, it holds things up, it holds things back. Never mind the fact that our government goes slow to begin with. You know, nothing in our government happens fast, which is set up by design to be thorough, but at times, I think that's a true issue. Which is just, I mean, neither here nor there. Well, I know, I mean, it is here nor there, because then nothing gets done quickly. Yeah, it is mind-boggling and baffling. So I quit drinking so much caffeine, and I've been drinking these just regular flavored drinks, trying to get more water in my body. And maybe this is something that somebody out there can answer for me. I've been dehydrated a lot lately. I think it's dehydrated. I have muscle cramps, things like that. And I think part of it is my medicine, my ADHD medicine, which is Adderall. But I also think that, which can dehydrate you. That I know. But I think even though I drink a lot of fluids, I don't always drink a lot of just water, you know, and unfortunately, when it comes to just plain water, I can't always do it for whatever reason. It just, because it doesn't have a flavor, and that is a flaw in me. You know, everything has to have a flavor, so I'm trying to get my hydration in, and that could be what's causing my cramps. Between the Adderall and I over-caffeinate myself, I think is what's causing that. Although I sleep just fine, sorta. I don't sleep long, but I think part of that's my age. Um, I average about 4.5 hours of sleep to 6 on a good day, which they tell me isn't completely healthy for my age. Everybody should get at least 8 hours of sleep. So if you're not getting 8 hours of sleep, get 8 hours of sleep. Younger people should actually sleep more, which I find funny. Teenagers, youth, should get more than that. That's why they say, and I kind of agree with this, mostly because I have to get up and take Sarah to school. 7:30 in the morning is actually too early for most high school students to start working their brain to death. That they should actually be able to sleep till 9 and school should start at 10. Although that can make for a weird day. Yeah, if you go to school at 10 o'clock in the morning and you have to have 9 hours of education because the education system says that we have to do more, and have a certain amount of hours, as we should. Which, I found out something else now. Come on, Sam. Good girl. There is another state trying to pass another law, educational law, which once again you have to put, and I can't remember, maybe Virginia. It was part of their new bill that they just passed, or they're trying to get another bill passed. I have to read more into it. I just heard about it yesterday from a friend of mine at work. But basically, they're doing the same thing Oklahoma was doing, where it's $10,000 fine. You can't get help from friends and family to pay it if you don't change your learning plan based on a parent's suggestion, and it limits what you can and can't teach, which that's already there, and that's shameful. And the teacher can be fined $10,000. They can't get help from family, friends, or social media to pay it. And anybody that helps them pay it will also be penalized with a $10,000 penalty. That is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. So, and here's why it's insane. Never mind the fact that bigotry and what we're trying to do, by forcing what it comes down to is we are forcing an extreme version of the Christian religion into our schools. That's not cool. It's just not. I feel like we're pushing extreme Christianity into our schools, when it shouldn't be that way. Education should be about everything, not just one side. And we're sprinkling it in with a touch of racism. Shame on us. Shame on those people. Because I know I would never allow anything like it to happen. Ohio is a Republican state. Ohio, has its flaws. We're trying to pass a law now where psychiatrists can't talk to underage kids about their sexuality, basically, and their representation, which is dangerous. And I don't even know why that would be a thing. I don't understand why that would even be a topic, but the psychiatrist or the specialist can lose their license for doing such a thing, can be thrown in jail, can be fined for such and I don't get why. I don't understand what the damage is about a teenage person, a young person, trying to work things out. And I'm not talking a 5 or 6 year old. I'm talking, somebody who's 16, 17 years old. As a person who works with a lot of teenagers, other than some immaturity things, that all goofy kids do, most kids have their act together by then. They at least have an idea. Not all kids, but most kids. And what does it matter? What does it matter? A psychiatrist isn't there to change they are there to change the world, I think, but they're there mostly to listen and give potential advice, not harmful advice, but advice to better your life. So I don't understand why this even has to be a thing or as a question. If a child has an issue, no matter what the issue is or a problem, they should be able to talk about it. And if they can't talk to their parents or their teachers or their friends about it, that's a pretty good alternative. And all we're doing is promoting these kids to be so overwhelmed with grief and stress when they don't need that. They need time to be kids and be themselves, unlike what society wants them to be. That's not something they should have to worry about. Remember, a culture is only an away from a cult. And it really sounds like we're trying to turn our culture in the U.S. into a cult. At least educationally. If it was bad, we don't talk about it. If you're a different color or have a different idea, we don't want to hear it. We don't want your opinion in it. That's what I see happening, at least to our education system. In some ways, I see that just happening in society. But as an optimist, I hold true to, I think this can all change. I know this can all change. We just got to put our best foot forward. I'm not naive in thinking it's not there. But anyhow. So, you may see me tomorrow for the taco rolls, the cinnamon roll tacos. That don't have cinnamon in them. But that was the best thing I could think of to call them. And maybe some wings. Maybe we'll talk about those wings. There's Chris. There she was. You guys saw her. If you're new, that's my wife, Chris. And then I'm honestly thinking about baking a cake. I'm dying for a cake, and I don't know why. It's like I should weigh 800 pounds. So we may do a 2-layer red velvet cake with some cream cheese icing. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Well, I'm sure I will see you sometime this week all the same. Until then, I love you. And I love you very much. Thank you for listening to me. I mean that from the bottom of my heart also. Tell somebody else you love them. You love them very much. Give them a hug, a handshake, smile. We don't have to wear masks in most places now. You can smile at each other. All right? I'll talk to you later, and I'll see you sometime this week. Love you. Bye.